creativity is just kind of like, without sounding too dramatic, it's kind of like breathing to me. I mean, I don't claim to be, you know, the best at being creative, or I don't think that my form of creativity, which is writing songs and putting thoughts, you know, and feelings onto paper and strumming the guitar and singing to it, I don't think that I am sort of reinventing the wheel. But it's definitely kind of more than a release for me. It's kind of like my own therapy session. But it's also, you know, I always say it's taken me places that I never have ever could have imagined. Not only geographically, but just being able to write a song about an experience living and growing up in Oklahoma, and then watching it on something like American Idol, or seeing it on HBO, or playing it for 10,000 people. You know, it's quite kind of crazy, pretty mind-boggling.
How do you scream out?
I remember I had an art teacher in high school who, you know, I was never great at painting or sketching or ceramics, and I think I made like a C in art. But I did have an art teacher that really was constantly on me about, you know, you should play this open mic night, you know, down in the Paseo Art District, or you should just take your songs and give them to your friends and play some concerts. And I just said, oh no, I mean, that's just stuff's for me, you know. I'll play, you know, I'll play some Dave Matthews cover songs, or I think I even covered Counting Crows a lot. But he really, you know, pushed me. This is somebody that was not a music teacher. He was just my art teacher. He had been at Heritage for almost 20 years, and really he was the first person, you know, not only to push me in multiple creative ways, but he pushed me to kind of get out there, you know. And it was something when you kind of figure out, wow, this is not only something that other people are connecting with, but it's just it's a feeling, and it's something that I'll never be able to stop, ever. You can look at somebody like Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips, for example. It's a prime example of, I mean, his creativity comes from Oklahoma. He chooses to live in Oklahoma. This is a guy that can't walk down the street in some European cities and not be mobbed. You know, he's a legend. He's an incredible ambassador for just Oklahoma, not only in music, but so many other ways. And somebody like that, you know, reminds me of I don't have to be in LA. I don't have to be in New York. I don't have to be in Nashville. I have to be where I'm most inspired and I'm most creative. That's the big thing about being creative, is just being comfortable to allow yourself to just kind of let go a little bit. And for me, I mean, some of the typical New York and LA's and Nashville's, I don't know, they don't, I'm not comfortable there. And I think that a lot of people, I mean, even my friend Adam Duritz from Counting Crows visited here. I think it was a basketball game when Cal Berkeley was playing OU in I think it was a regional basketball tournament a few years back. And he wrote this journal entry on his website, and it was just talking about how he couldn't really describe it, but the people that were surrounding him were so gracious, so nice, so complimentary of not only the team. They didn't bother him. They didn't, you know, they didn't overstep their boundaries from this guy who had dreadlocks and everybody kind of knows who he is. And I think that's a prime example of this sort of kind of hidden gem that is Oklahoma, I should say. It's just extremely important for me to be here, and it's extremely important for me to tell not only young people, you know, there's a lot of people that are my age that they get out of college and they feel like they have to go to an LA, or they have to go to New York, or they have to go to Nashville or Chicago to be creative. And you know, since we're kind of moving into this new world of internet and MySpace and Facebook and Twitter and just this instant information, I guess, how it's spread, you know, you really can do it anywhere. So why not be in a place where you feel comfortable enough to kind of let it happen? And I think, for me, it's here. There's a lot of models for inspiration for me. I mean, you know, going back to the touring thing, that's where my career really started. My big opportunity was being able to go on the road, play my songs, sell my CDs after the show, shake hands with everybody in the crowd. And so I mean, just following those acts that have been able to maintain these careers and have thousands of people come to their concerts night after night, year after year, that is really my model of inspiration. Just as far as, you know, from a career standpoint, just, you know, having longevity. I mean, there's so many models of inspiration for me because, you know, people always ask me, you know, where do the songs come from? Do the lyrics come first? Does the music come first? What you know, how does a song happen? And I wish I could give an answer for that. I mean, I'm really inspired by anything and everything. And, you know, my first album that I made was all about the road and sort of, you know, being in this place where I wasn't a college student and I left home for the first time and I was playing town to town, and it was very much that sort of Jack Kerouac experience. My last album was you know, very much relationship driven, and you know, now I'm in a place where I have moved back home. I've moved back to Oklahoma City, and I'm surrounded by the people and friends and places that not only have inspired me in the past, but are really inspiring me now. You know, and I just find that, you know, I never really sit down with a guitar and a, you know, pencil and paper. It just kind of happens. It just kind of falls from the sky. It really wasn't a conscious decision a few years ago for me to move back home and you know, buy a house and have a dog and you know, reestablish those roots. I just kind of felt, you know, when I would come off the road, I was living in Dallas at the time, and I would come home to an empty loft apartment, and there was, I just felt like there was something missing, and so I can't tell you why I just felt this need to it was more than moving home. It was just the need to reestablish my roots. There was something else that I needed to say and write about and feel and experience, and when I did that, I mean, the house that I live in now is you know, a stone's throw from my mom and my grandparents, and, you know, just friends and family that I remember riding my bike down the same street when I was, you know, 7 and 8 years old. Just things like that that I really hadn't embraced in a long time, whether it be in my songs or even thought about. I found that I was reconnecting with that, if that makes sense. I always say it's kind of the best kept secret in the country, and of course, being born and raised in Oklahoma, I have to be a little biased, but really, you know, I've had the experience to travel, you know, all over the world, and I mean, whether I'm involved in music or you know, acting or any other job, I mean, this is where I want to be, and again, it's about where I'm inspired, and there's something about I mean, I think a big part of me is the people, and I just kind of have found that there was so much that I wasn't saying in my previous albums, and I kind of felt like, you know, I was only writing about the times in my life that were from age 21 and on. You know, I played football in high school. I you know, did all these different kind of things that typically don't go hand in hand with being a singer or a songwriter or a you know, a rock and roller. And I've kind of come full circle with all those things and sort of admitting, yeah, I mean, I had the ultimate Friday Night Lights experience in high school, and that is totally sacred for me. We won the state championship, and it was all these things that maybe aren't the most, I don't know, musician-like. I've certainly never heard one of my peers talk about, you know, glory days in high school, but they're extremely important to me, and they're a huge part of my life, and in a roundabout way, those experiences have found their way back into my songwriting. And I just think it's a huge thing to identify that again, those experiences are what are inspiring me kind of now as a 20-something. The next stage of my life, that's a great question. I'm figuring that out as I'm making my new album. I mean, Best Days was the last song that I wrote for my last album, and that was a time where I was in LA at the time, and I was staying at these hotels for 30 days at a time and making my album. And you know, the process of how I make albums, which may be different from other artists, is really, it's not about going into the studio and hitting the record button. You know, the exciting and slash scary part is what's going to come next. You know, Best Days happened. I wrote it in 15 minutes. Just at kind of, I remember talking to my brother who went to the University of Kansas, and he was coming back to Oklahoma and had no idea what the rest of his life was going to look like, you know. And I remember kind of telling him, just, you know, be thankful for the friends that you made in this experience, and yeah, it's never going to be the same ever again, but I mean, you have that experience and you're going to take it with you, and now you get to come home and regroup and reestablish, you know, the relationships that you built in high school. And I just got to thinking about, you know, here comes the rest of your life. You know, here it's the thought of yeah, it's scary and it's exciting, and so I think that I definitely touched on something with that song, but you know, for me the struggle is going to be, how do I have that be part of I guess, one of the pieces of my career, and it's a huge piece, you know. But I got to do something different. I have to do something new, you know. So we'll see. I'm definitely excited about it, though. You know, I feel like I've been extremely lucky with the experiences and really breaks and opportunities that I've received along the way. But for me, it's always been about just being honest and who I am and where I come from. And that's not an easy thing to do. A lot of people that I talk to, that are, you know, kids coming up that want to, you know, write songs and sing and be rock stars. You know, I mean, I'm still learning, but I always feel like I kind of am at my best when I'm just honest with myself. And again, a big part of that for me has been reestablishing my roots in Oklahoma. And it's just truly getting in touch with who I am and where I come from. And I think that, you know, if there was any downside from all the touring that I've done and watching all of these you know, these musical heroes of mine, is that, you know, learn from these people, learn, you know, how they embrace an audience, learn how they craft and write songs, learn how they play their instruments. But also, don't lose yourself along the way. And I feel like the greatest thing about going on the road and touring and seeing other places and cities is that I was kind of able to make those mistakes and sort of chip away at the stone to get to the true heart of who I am as a person and as an artist. And that's tough. I mean, I'm still figuring it out. But I think that, you know, I would say for anybody who's kind of coming up, you know, definitely go travel, see other places, experience everything you can experience, because I really believe that, especially if you're from Oklahoma, it's going to make you appreciate where you come from a lot more. And, you know, if you've got an itch you need to scratch and you want to go see the world, and absolutely do that, and take those experiences and put them on paper, or put them in a, you know, a painting, or take photos along the way, however you want to do it, I think is wonderful, because we need Oklahomans and we need young people to go out there and talk about where they're from and embrace Oklahoma. But I think you're going to be surprised as when you see those other places, you know, you're really taking Oklahoma with you along the way. And when you come back, it's, at least for me, it's been a really rewarding experience.
Halfway between somewhere and nothing, woke up and I'm 20-something. And I try, but trying doesn't always get me there. And I'm fine halfway between somewhere and nothing. Woke up and I'm 20-something. Woke up and I'm 20-something.